And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes with part 5. Well, it's 10 actually. Part 5 of the tier list series. So today we're going to be ranking the best centers in NBA 2K22, my team. Look, I'm aware that primetime packs come out later today, and obviously we're getting content on Friday. If I sat here and tried to wait for content, I would literally never get this episode of the tier list series out. So here's what I'm going to do, because I guarantee, knowing my luck, because I did power forwards yesterday and centers today, we are going to get like a power forward or a center in the primetime pack, at least like 2 of them for no reason. So in my either pack opening or market video that I'm going to be doing later today, talking about the new cards, I will tell you what tiers there would be in each respective tier list once I get a chance to use them, which I usually do before the market video. So good compromise? Cool. Let's get into the parameters. S tier, unquestionable best cards in the game. When I say best cards in the game, like I said, during my tier list, I try to do cards non-badged up. I try to rank between current and next gen and throughout at least majority of the play styles I can think of. So, we'll kind of go from there. And with the centers, I feel like it's pretty important. So I will explain why each card is in what tier they're in. A tier, just a shade under S tier. I'll explain the reasoning behind that as well. B tier, this is what majority of the community is going to be using to a certain extent. I mean, a lot of the community is going to have A tier guys too, but B tier is kind of where, most of the community is going to be. And these cards are very, very good. They're just a shade under A tier. Maybe they're just a little less complete, but maybe they're better at certain things. So I will explain why they're there. C tier. Just kind of middle of the road guys. I mean, if you're just starting out, these guys are going to be just like very acceptable to use. And maybe in certain scenarios, they might be incredibly good, but I'll talk about it. D tier, you should probably upgrade, but I mean, they are able to do certain things here and there. And then F tier, they're not complete trash, because I don't think any card in this game is complete trash except Karl Malone at this point. But you would be better off upgrading. So we'll get started with Evo Channing Frye, and I put him in C tier. Now, he does spread the floor out with the ability to shoot the 3, but his release is just so slow, dude. I don't know. It's the combination of his base and his upper. Like, so incredibly slow. He's a little sluggish as well. He can't handle the ball very well, and he's not the best post player in the world. That being said, I mean, if you're looking for somebody who's just going to block shots, play a little bit of defense, rebound the ball because he is 7 feet tall, and shoot threes when wide open, you could do a lot worse. Channing Frye is really solid. I mean, he's going to be towards the top of C tier. I just don't quite think he's B tier, just with his lack of like anything else besides the 2 things he's good at. Antonio Davis, F. One of these years, we're going to get an Antonio Davis that's actually good. I don't know when that's going to be or if that will ever happen, because they like to do Antonio Davis super dirty for some reason. I don't know what that's all about, but he's usually just not good in 2K. I'm hoping this year we can get like an Antonio Davis that plays power forward, and he'll at least have a competent enough jump shot early on so he can get some actual love in this game. Willis Reed. Willis Reed is actually usually pretty good, and if we get like a high tier Willis Reed, I could easily see Willis Reed being like B, A, or even S tier if they juice him up properly. Pretty easy to time jump shot for the most part, but he's just a base set card. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him. Matt Bonner. This is not the Matt Bonner from last year. He does not have Klay Thompson release. If he did, he'd probably be in like C tier, but he's just like okay, like D. Kristaps. Now on current gen, I would say Kristaps is like A tier. And the reason I would say that is because he's lightning fast, he's super huge, he has a really, I would say, average jump shot. I don't think it's the greatest jump shot in the world, but with current gen making so many whites, especially contested whites, he is a problem. People will literally just sit there and paint camp with Kristaps and be able to hold their entire defense down by doing that. On next gen, I don't think he's quite as good at all, especially because paint smashing or post scoring is so effective on next gen that it makes using Kristaps a huge liability. So for that reason, I would put him towards the top of B tier. I still think the card is incredibly good, especially for like 20K. Like, he's one of the best budget centers you can buy, but I wish his badge count, especially in the shooting department, was a little bit better. He can handle the ball a little bit too. Obviously, he's huge. There's benefits to using Kristaps. It's just, there's some negatives too, especially on next gen. Kevin McHale. Look, you have to collect a ridiculous amount of cards to get this card, and I'm not sure how many people actually have this card or anyone even does. I personally haven't played around with him, but he's got pretty good stable. I mean, he's just very overall complete. I would have to say he's A tier. Like, if you have used this card, there's not many cards that I haven't at least personally tried out when I do these tier lists. And I know people will flame me all the time because I'll rank a card I haven't personally used. But like, there's no way for me to use Kevin McHale. I don't know anyone who has this many cards, like in my tiny circle of like people that I would even trust to use their account, which is like 3 tops. And I do not have enough cards for this card. But Kevin McHale, by all metrics, he's usually incredible in 2K. He's got a pretty nice jump shot, pretty much well-rounded. He's one of the best-looking centers in the game. So I would put him in A tier for sure. NBA 2K starter Al Horford, C. I mean, he's decent. He plays good defense. He can shoot a little bit. There's nothing wrong with him. He's like as C tier as they come. Art Gilmore. I love Art Gilmore, and on next gen, he's probably like D tier, like towards the top, I would say. But he's probably like the best card in F tier if we're talking about between current and next gen. Vlade Divac. I think he's better than Matt Bonner, like altogether, but I don't think he's as good as Horford or Channing Frye. So for that reason, I'd put him in D tier. I would use Willis Reed over him. I like a faster center. Ben Wallace. He brings me not much on offense, but I think he's so good on defense that he belongs in B tier. Like, there's not many centers that can stop or at least limit paint mashing on next gen, and Ben Wallace can do a decent job of that. And on current gen, he can rim run decently as well. He's a specialist player, and I don't think he'll be towards the top of B tier or anything, but he definitely deserves to be there. Alonzo Mourning. B. This card actually moves. Like, this card moves. He's really good, and he's just so yoked, like, for no reason whatsoever. And he can stop paint smashing, like, on next gen. He can. If you have him in, like, your 13th man spot, or if you use him as a center, like, obviously, like, one of your bench or your starting center, he can limit some of the damage someone like a David Robinson or like a Yao Ming can do to a certain extent just based on his player build alone. So for that, I'll put him in B tier. Both of them would be right here, though. You do not need the one with the mask. He can shoot a little bit, so it is helpful because he has kind of a slower jump shot, just like another guy I'll talk about later, but I would put him in B. This one's going to be, Ha Sung Jin, absolute B tier. Like, he's Yao Ming with stamina and a little bit of a jump shot. He has a pretty easy to green jumper. You can hit threes with this card, especially if you put like a shoe, have a floor general out there, have the right coach. Like, you can crack threes with Ha. He's really nice. Like, the fact that we have a Ruby center like this, that's this good, that's up in B tier is actually crazy. All right, Mike Muscala. Shout out to Mike Muscala. I would put him in C tier. He's got set shot 4, which is like pretty horrendous. I'm trying to think. Peja Stojakovic and Dave Bing definitely have it. Who else has it? Spencer Haywood. It is a pretty unbearable jump shot, certainly, but it's not terrible on the catch and shoot, especially on current gen. Like, it's not bad at all. And he suffers from Kevin Love or Channing Frye syndrome, where they basically just rebound the ball and shoot open threes. And if that's what you're looking for, Mike Muscala's not that bad. He's got 70 speed, too. He's actually relatively kind of fast, actually, for, like, what he brings, you know? What is his ball handle? Yeah, 42. You're not ball handling Mike Muscala, but it is what it is. Bill Laimbeer. I would throw Bill Laimbeer over in B tier. And the reason I say that, he has one of the worst jump shots in the game. There's no question about it. It is greenable. I've found success, and I know I've seen DBG say the same thing, that I found success using his jump shot with the actual analog stick. Not saying it's going to be that much better, but it is an option. He's good. You kind of almost need the version of him with the mask, though, because his jump shot is so slow and awkward that you kind of need blinders. So I would put him in B tier. Bill Walton. On next gen, he's probably like D, but F tier, I would say. Bob McAdoo. I mean, you could argue he goes in C tier, I guess, but I would put him towards the top of D tier. Brad Doherty. I mean, he's really good. On next gen, he's probably B tier. Like, he's really good in the post, and like defensively, he dunks really hard. But I would say if you combine the two, he's probably top of C tier. Shaq Diesel. I would throw him. I like Ha over Shaq. I don't really care. I would put him in like B tier though. He's still his jump shot apparently is like very glitchy this year, meaning like it's very good. And if we can get a Shaq that can shoot, we could have problems. Like we could, even if he has like a 63, we could have some issues. He's one of the best paint scoring centers in the game still, and he came out day one. Brooke Lopez. I mean, he's not terrible, but like D tier. He's a base set guy. I would use Al Horford over him. He's not a 3-point shooter. Once we get a 3-point shooting Brooke Lopez, though, I think that card will be stupid. Dikembe Mutumbo, A. I would put him at A tier. He's still good enough to be A. Obviously, there's some issues with him. His jump shot is hit or miss. I prefer it on next gen than over current gen. He just seems to miss like a lot of whites in a game mode where like whites are kind of super important. They're not really as important in next gen, so it's not really that big of a deal. And his jump shot just feels a little more fluid over there. He's not ball handling or anything, but he's still a great defensive presence and 3-point shooter. Wendell Carter. I don't like Wendell Carter that much. You know, I have my issues with this card, but he's C tier. Chris Cayman. Shout out to my bald homie, Chris Cayman. I would still throw him in F tier, though. Yeah, I would still throw him here. I would use like Brooke Lopez, Willis Reed, and Vlade over him. Dan Issel. When we get a Dan Issel card, I said Issel and then I said Issel. I'm not entirely sure what the pronunciation is. Either way, when we get a good one, he's going to be good, but this is just not it. Theo Ratliff. He's really good defensively, so I would throw him in like, you know, low B tier, or low D tier, I mean, but he's not quite F. Like, he's better than like Bill Walton and Art Gilmore, especially on current gen, but DeAndre Ayton is B tier for sure. Greenable jump shot, granted only a 65-3. If we would have got the Evo and it raised his 3-pointer up, or even a couple of his 3-point badges up, or shooting badges in general, like we could be looking at an A tier center, if not S tier one. He was that good. I think at max he would have been like A tier, like close to Dikembe. But as it stands right now, I would put him in B tier. Yao Ming. You guys know my issues with this Yao Ming card. But that being said, he's so overpowered on next gen. I would say on next gen, he is like high B tier, but I think Ha is actually better than him. Yao Ming is just so unstoppable at paint smashing, but I would say total, like we're talking next and current gen, he's probably C tier. That stamina really hurts him, especially on next gen where stamina actually kind of matters. It's hurtful for his card. Deandre Jordan, this one D tier. This one I would say C tier by like Brad Daugherty. Plays great defense, dunks really hard. He's not really the greatest post scorer either, but he's okay. It just depends how you value, or like what you value when I rank these cards in C tier. Like objectively, DeAndre Jordan is better than Mike Muscala and Wendell Carter, but for me, who likes to space the floor, I probably use those two guys over him. DeMarcus Cousins. D-Cuz is pretty good, but C tier. Dwight Howard. I'll start off by saying this card is absolutely not worth locking in for, but he is B tier. Like, he is. He's great in the post. He's a great rebounder, especially if you're someone who relies on, like, lobs. He's going to be good. If you're trying to hold down someone like David Robinson, he's great. But Rafe LaFrance, B. He's good. Some issues defensively, but offensively, he's really nice. Easy to green jump shot. I'm upset that I never got this card. I tried so hard. Miles Turner, A. Yeah, Miles Turner is A. He's relatively complete. It just depends what your team needs on these three A tier guys. That's why I'm not really too worried about the ranking, within this tier right here, because I think they're all kind of on the same wavelength. It just depends what you need. If you need more of an overall complete center, Miles Turner would be the guy. Kevin McHale also, those two cards are very similar. If you need more of a defensive 3-and-D guy like Dikembe Mutumbo, I'd probably put him at the end here. George Mikan, not quite bad enough for F, but I would put him in like D. I hate this Zubac card. If you like this Zubac card, that's fine. I hate him. Joakim Noah, top of D tier. I mean, he's still a gold card with a Joakim Noah jump shot at the end of the day, but like having a gold card that's this dominant defensively, like if you're playing offline game modes, like my man is going to be like C tier, possibly even B tier. For offline TT, like, yeah, for triple threat offline, he's like S tier, dude. I swear he is. Joe Barry Carroll. I mean, he's a great defensive presence. That's about it. Joel Embiid. I think he's the best card in A tier. That's my opinion on it. He's overall super complete. I just wish his defense was just a tad bit better. That's literally it. Karl Anthony Towns. Cat's good. Like I said, if you value offense, it's kind of the same thing I'm dealing with like Wendell and Mike Muscala down in C tier. You know, having guys like Brad Daugherty, DeAndre Jordan, and Yao Ming over him. If you value offense, he's going to be higher. If you value defense, he's going to be lower. So I'm going to healthy medium. I'm going to put him right in the middle here. Like for me personally, I probably use him over Dwight Howard, Shaq, and Ayton. Well, maybe not Ayton. I like Ayton a lot, but I probably use him over like Dwight Howard and Shaq. So I'm going to keep him right here. Lamarcus Aldridge, same thing. I mean, like, I probably use him over Shaq or Dwight Howard just for the way I play, but objectively, he's still really good. He's huge. I might even throw Lamarcus higher. I like this card. I do have my issues with him, though. He misses a lot of whites, and he's kind of sluggish. Mark Eaton. I would throw him, like, right here ahead of Al Horford. He's still a monster in the paint. He's one of the best defensive centers in the game still. He's just so slow, but he's so big, dude. Marvin Bagley. I hate this card so much, but like I'm trying to be unbiased. He's still like a low C tier center. He can still kind of do it all, but I still hate him. Mitchell Robinson. Still one of the best defensive Ruby centers in the game. Still great. I would put him on par with Mark Eaton, honestly. Montrez Harold. This is kind of like a Marvin Bagley situation where I kind of hate this card, but he's still like a little too good to go in D tier. Would I use Joakim Noah over him? Possibly. Defensively, maybe. I actually don't. I hate this card. I'm putting him in D tier. I don't care. He's so bad. Kareem. I would still put him in A. Just his defense and his post-scoring ability on next gen is so lethal that I just feel like A tier. He has to be in A tier just based off that. I feel like Kristaps is very good on current gen, for example, right? But he's not completely overpowered on current gen. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is kind of still completely overpowered on next gen. Like David Robinson, I mean, spoiler alert, let me just do this. He's in S tier and he's alone in S tier. He is so much better than everyone else that there's no one that even deserves to be in the same tier as him. But David Robinson is really the only like person who can stop Kareem Abdul-Jabbar consistently on next gen. Like this card is so annoying. I hate him so much. Nate Thurman, he's like worse Bill Walton than like Art Gilmore. This Bill Laimbeer, I think, is still B tier because of what he brings your team, but I dislike him so much. You know what? No, this Bill Laimbeer goes C tier. Like, yeah, this one at least has the blinders to kind of make up for his horrendous jump shot just a little bit. This one does not have the blinders, and I don't know what it is. He just doesn't want to rebound the ball half the time. It's like horrendous. Starter Vucevic. I mean, I'll put him by starter Horford. Like, I mean, they're good enough. If you got one of these cards at the beginning, definitely helped you up, give you like a leg up on everybody else. Dunktober Jokic, I think is still, I might throw him up in B tier. Daryl Dawkins, I think, is B tier, like around Alonzo Mourning and Ben Wallace. He's a little outdated, but he's still really nice, especially if you run in the paint or attack the rim. He's going to be really good. Like, he's decent on both gens, whereas Yao Ming is not. This one is controversial. This is a very controversial one that I'm about to do, but I really think Richaun Holmes is actually like low B tier. This card is actually pretty good. I played around with him a little bit before I sold him last night. And honestly, for his price, he is really solid. I would still probably go with DeAndre Ayton personally because he's a little bit better of a three-point shooter than Richaun Holmes. And Ayton's a little bit better in the paint. You can paint sit with DeAndre Ayton all day, so huge, but Richaun Holmes is actually pretty solid. Rick Smits. Controversial again. I think Rick Smits is just better than Yao Ming, like, period. Yao Ming is a little bit better in the paint on next gen, but Rick Smits is not far off, and he brings you a much better mid-range. He doesn't seem to get winded after like 36 seconds of game time. That's always good. Rudy Gobert. He's one of the best defensive centers in the game. Like, I think he's better than Mitchell Robinson personally. His non-signature version is probably on par with Mitchell Robinson. I would say Mitchell Robinson even gets a little bit more on the rebounding end. But that Hall of Fame intimidator is so close. Or is a rim protector. Either way, for his purposes, they're pretty much the same thing. I know that's also a controversial statement. I don't really care. Spencer Haywood would be like right by Bob McAdoo. They're kind of the same guy. And when I say that, like, obviously having a Hall of Fame intimidator would help, but the rim protector thing, Hall of Fame rim protector, I get those two badges mixed up all the time when I'm talking about centers. Huge. For a Ruby center, absolutely huge. Wilt Chamberlain. All right, another controversial one. I think Wilt Chamberlain is B tier. I just think there is such a gap between Kareem and Wilt that he deserves to be the best card in B tier because he is so fast. He plays defense so well. It's just, I think Kareem is just so much better. And Dikembe gives you the ability to shoot. On next gen, Wilt Chamberlain's probably A tier. On current, I think he's like, B, somewhere around like Shaq. Obviously, he's better than Dwight Howard and Shaq, and he's probably better than Ha. But I would put him like right here. Stacey King, Bulls legend Stacey King goes there. Thiago Splitter is goated, dude. He's top of D tier. I am being non-ironic when I say this, and I'm being completely serious. I would use this Thiago Splitter over Marvin Bagley. That is how much I hate Marvin Bagley. Vin Baker. I would also use Vin Baker over Marvin Bagley. Anybody who's been in my streams when I let you guys pick my unlimited team knows that that's factual. I would legitimately use Vin Baker and Thiago Splitter over Marvin Bagley. I can't do my man Vin like that. He's got to go in C tier. He blocks like an absurd amount of shots. I don't understand what it is. Something about him. Ilgauskas. Okay. So I'm going to start before I do this, and I'm going to put Jokic up in B tier because I think Jokic does deserve to be in B tier. He's still like a very underappreciated center, regardless of his jump shot is kind of like meh. This is probably the most controversial center on this list. I actually believe Ilgauskas is B tier. I would use Ilgauskas on both current and next gen over every single center in C tier, like except maybe Rick Smits, and that's very situational. Ilgauskas is massive. He plays competent enough defense, and he is a great jump shooter. Obviously, you guys know I play really like team focused basketball where I like spread the love around to every single player, and so I don't abuse players to a certain extent. So guys, if I have 5 guys who can shoot, that's pretty much how I operate. So I love Ilgauskas, so I might just be too high on Ilgauskas, but I don't know. Let me know what you think of the list down below or in the live chat, which I'm sure you're doing right now because I'm going to premiere this. Drop a like on this video. Go check out the rest of my tier list. I'll link them at the end of the video. And I'll be back later to open primetime packs. You guys know what it is. Peace out.